This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Town of Cottage Grove and the Village of Cottage Grove Joint Fire Department meeting, Monday, July 26th, 2021, 6:30 PM. Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. The meeting was posted in town, posted in the village. We have the minutes from May 24th and June 28th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve both the May 24th and June 28th minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, abstentions? Motion carried. Public concerns, public's opportunity to speak about any subject that's not a specific agenda item, and things how I forgot. Chief's report, you could report now.
So we're currently sitting at 40 members. That consists of 9 officers, 2 driver operators, 22 firefighters, 7 probationary members, and we're at 179 calls for the year. We're currently working on reviewing our SOGs, our standard operating guidelines. They were adopted in 2016. We're just reorganizing them, kind of cleaning up some of the redundancies, and we've added some policies since they've gone into place. We're just doing some overall streamlining of it. We're planning a training with the city of Madison on rural water movement sometime in September. They're not equipped to do any kind of rural water movement, but since they have station 14 and 13 out in Blooming Grove where there's no hydrants, they're going to rely on us to help with that. So we're going to cross train with them to help them establish, I guess, some repertoire on it, for familiarity. All of our maintenance has been completed on all the trucks. Engine 3 had cracked brake shoes, and engine 4 has a leaking power steering pump, and I'm working on getting prices for those repairs. All trucks passed their pump testing. We submitted 2 grants, one from the Wisconsin DNR for wildland firefighting equipment, including shirts and helmets and some gloves, so we don't have to use our structural firefighting gear out in grass fires. And the other one was to the Leary Foundation. We're trying to get an in-station containment system and fill for our SCBA bottles. We've been filling them off the squad for forever. And with the newer, higher capacity bottles, there's not as much capacity to fill that many bottles with it being in the squad. So if we had one built into the compressor system, it would make it a lot easier for us to fill bottles. So, and then I guess the next, I actually had a question. So I was listening to the village board meeting last time, about the budget, and it basically said that we needed to plan better for our budget, so you guys didn't have unexpected costs. So upon talking to Matt Easy, he said we can only increase our budget 2 to 3% every year. So 2 to 3% on our budget's roughly $2,000, $3,000, somewhere in there. And our expenses for repairs this year went up 15,000 of unexpected costs. So we can only increase 2 to 3,000. We're getting after 15 in costs. We're going to be short. So I guess before we're going to start writing our budget in September, I guess I'd like to know, should I write the budget in a way that accounts for everything or account for just a 2 to 3% increase like I was told?
I would say the 2 to 3% increase isn't a hard and fast, because I know like EMS, for example, I'm sure it's going to be more than 2%. So I think write it for all of the costs, and then I know what Matt has.
Yeah, I think that's the only right thing to do is tell us what you honestly feel that what you
Yeah, I
guys
just
spend.
wanted clarification before.
No, that's fine.
I'm trying to, not a long meeting, but I'm just trying to recall what was said there, but for me personally, tell us everything you need. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't, don't, don't,
We're talking about public safety here. This is
yeah,
not
I
a-
would, yeah.
I don't think this is something we should, mess around with. If you need, whatever you need, let us know and then we can
We'll
have
figure
that
out a way to
conversation later, but.
pay for it.
I think in general, he tells all of the departments 2 to 3% increase. And then people react like you do, and some just try to do it within 2, 3%, and then others ask the good questions. So thank you.
And that's what he was getting at, to try to keep it to 2 to 3%, but it whittles away.
That's all I got for the chief's report.
Just one quick question. I mean, like, as far as the repairs for, I think it was engine, I guess, what were the repairs again? Well, the new repairs.
The new repairs that are coming up would be engine 3 has some cracked brake shoes, and engine 4 has a leaking power steering pump. I could find out if they're urgent to the point where they need to be fixed right now, or if they
Sure.
can just be budgeted in the next year. The brake shoes are probably gonna be an urgent thing because it made the truck fail DOT inspection. So,
Safety issue.
the power steering one, it doesn't fail DOT because of that, so I would say it's probably one that can be deferred.
Is it, I mean, obviously, brakes, brake pads, brake shoes, right? Those things break down, that things happen, right? But help me understand, I mean, in terms of, like repairs and I'm new here, right? So I'm still trying to understand, like, is this a consistent kind of like repairs or pop up
Yeah.
fairly often, or is it,
Yeah, so
All the time.
okay, I
the
figured,
budget that we use is pretty much been similar for forever.
yeah,
It was written to be real minimalistic towards apparatus repair. And, we would do minor repairs out of it, but anything significant, then we would come back to you guys and ask for the increased funds. That's how it's been since Bruce was the chief. I mean,
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
And, it's just that the trucks are getting to the point where the repairs are becoming a lot more expensive and they're taking up the entire budget as opposed to doing maintenance. So
is it, I guess my question, I guess the question that I want to ask, right, is does the age of the equipment have anything to do with it?
somewhat.
Is everybody like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So
so,
to put it in perspective, engine 3 is the one that's being replaced in March.
Yeah.
And it was one that we talked about maybe trying to bump up the replacement schedule because last year it had a bad pump on it. That was a $12,000 repair. Now this brake shoes, they haven't given me a price yet, but it's probably gonna be another couple $1,000s to do the brake shoes. It's been a good truck, but it's old. It's 25, 26 years old. They're just stuff wears out.
remind me again, the repair schedule was every 10 or 20, depending on the equipment,
The
right?
replacement schedule is 25 years.
25 years,
Trucks,
okay.
which is one of the things I wanted to talk about later.
Is that, all right, I won't steal your thunder then.
Can you say more about the Madison water stations? Did you say 13 and 14?
Yeah,
And they're going to rely on us for the water? Did I understand
they're
that?
gonna call county units. We're one of them that they'll be counting on, especially 14, because if you come out from right in their territory, that's really close to the station. So they're set up to do all hydrants. They don't have anything set up for rural water, tenders or water shuttling. So what they'll request is, it's in their cards, they'll request 1 engine and 3 tenders from the county. Last time they needed it, it was 1 of our engines and 1 of our tenders. So 2 trucks from us. And basically we set up a portable tank and we hauled water to the tank and then we relay pump to them with our engine because we can, what's called drafting, pulling water out of the tank as opposed to a hydrant. They just don't buy the equipment to do it because they have areas that don't have hydrants, but they're making anybody that doesn't have hydrants get hydrants. So for now,
In
they're
a matter of time before they get hydrant. Did they give you a timeline of when they'll have hydrants?
No, it was.
It's all dependent on budgets.
Yeah, that's.
Like when the sugar was-
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time.
I think worth asking.
Do they reimburse us any?
No.
But the water will end up, other than the first load, will be their water. So like if there's a fire in Madison or in Madison's territory, first of all, it's gonna obviously be our water because it's already in the truck. But we'll go to a hydrant in their territory and fill the truck again. So we won't keep driving back to Cottage Grove and using Cottage Grove water, we'll be using Madison water for the duration.
But when you come back, you'll be full.
Yes.
We'll fill up on the way out of town.
I mean, we went full, we'll come back.
Yeah, makes sense.
Kind of like rent a car.
And it takes our personnel also, right? At least the,
Yep.
to get the truck up.
Yeah, so a tender would be 2 people and an engine crew would be 4 people. So
And this has been happening for a while. It sounds like you've already responded to some.
It's happened once in the 10 years they've had Blooming Grove account, so it's
Okay.
pretty rare.
Okay.
Maybe twice. It's not an everyday thing, but they've got some new lieutenants that are really want to practice stuff before they run into it out in the field. I guess. So, well, we're doing it.
Thank you.
And really, this is just to kind of add something to Nick. It's a product of the city of Madison providing services to townships, the town of Blooming Grove and the town of Madison for some years, and other departments like Sun Prairie and I think even DeForest have arrangements with them to provide the tender shuttle.
FYI for everyone, on July 5th, a hot day, we had a leak in the station in the mezzanine that leaked down into the,
Very much so.
and took out a sensor for the alarm system. I had, apparently all it was the drain line was plugged, but I had High Tech out, they fixed that, and a couple of days later, I had the head replaced because it had been soaked and wasn't working, so that the alarm system is now working again.
It's going off every couple minutes and scaring the EMTs while they were sleeping.
So what was that cost? Like,
I
Less
don't
than
know what the
$1,000.
head is going to cost.
What was leaking?
Uh,
Just a pipe? Or,
The drain was plugged
oh, that's right.
from the air conditioner unit, so it spilled over and went down through the floor, took out some ceiling tiles, and that one sensor was right under it, of course.
naturally.
I'll add in, luckily, only took out one sensor because what it was leaking above was the entire electrical panel for the building.
Oh, that's pretty.
Bullet dodged, I guess.
So it was leaking into the storage room for medication?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And no medications were damaged?
no. That it, discuss and consider tender 2 replacement.
So we submitted a packet based on that. And I told Kim when I sent it that the prices were going to change a little bit. So I have 2 updated prices on that for you guys. The tier changed to 461, 397. And the custom changed to 472,000 flat.
What was the Pierce one?
461, 397.
Yep, one window down.
So tender 2 is on the schedule at 25 years to be replaced next year. So it would have to be approved and purchased in your guys' budget this fall. So, so we have updated prices, we have a spec. Basically, the market's pretty volatile right now when it comes to fire trucks. These prices are good for 30 days and then they're gonna go up. And then they're gonna go up again in another 30 days. and
Is
then they're
that
gonna
just
go up again.
like COVID use related
Material shortage, everything.
or just chip shortage?
So he said, like normally when they give us a bid, it's like, we have a few months to approve it, but this one it's 30 days. We had a different price 30 days ago, it's already went up, a pretty good amount, a couple $1,000. But I guess we'd be looking to try and get an approval to purchase a new tender.
There's a difference of about $12,000. Do you have any history of either one of these?
So that we have both trucks in the station right now. Current tender is a custom fire. The new truck we just bought is a Pierce. The truck committee, which was made up of 5 or 6 members, went through all the specs, and the last vote I took from them, they were in favor of purchasing the Pierce.
I guess my point of view is if we're replacing the engine in March, we might as well, I would just as soon replace the tender at the same time so I can take out one loan for the 2 pieces.
So I think in our current contract, the town has sole ownership of the tender. So
And that will change.
why?
Why? Because you need it, and so does Pleasant Springs.
Can you tell us more about how we use it in the village?
Village right now would use it. There's a few properties that have been annexed that don't have hydrant access. One example would be East Taylor. It's the first house after you clear the village, what you would consider the village, just past the School Prairie. We had a fire call out there earlier this year. Because it's been annexed into the village, the comm center updates it automatically. So when we got called out there, they called for a village response, which was a ladder truck and engine truck and 1 engine, no tenders. So luckily, the people that were responding during the day had been home long enough to know that there isn't a hydrant there, and they brought the appropriate trucks. But the closest hydrant would be right by the School Prairie. So you're talking, over 2,000 feet of hose plus to make that to the closest hydrant. It's quite the stretch, and it's quite the pressure drop. So that would have been one there's a couple properties like that. Most of the stuff you guys have annexed is vacant though. So the chances of us needing to bring a truck fire response out there is not as significant, but it's just trying to get the infrastructure caught up with the property, I guess. There's a few properties that it's not caught up yet, I guess. And Pleasant Springs, obviously, like I said, that, both the money from the Pleasant Springs account goes into a joint account that you guys share. They don't have any hydrants, so they're relying solely on these things.
And are you looking for approval on this tonight? I think we would have to bring it back to our board.
Just discussing it.
I think what we did on the engine is that this committee has to approve it, and then you guys have to go to your municipalities to approve the funding.
Right.
So it's really 2 votes, but we're looking to get the joint fire committee
Get it
approved
started.
tonight, and then trying to get a signed contract before the price goes up again, because it's probably gonna go up another 20 grand and then another 20 grand.
Melissa, can you read the prices back to me one more time?
The Pierce one is 461, 397, and the custom fire is 472. Even.
And we've already used all the Pleasant Springs money for the current stuff we bought, right? Or the brush truck, or we spent it on something, didn't we?
What we have, we'll probably use for the engine or this. Take it back.
Yeah,
It's all gonna go into the same pot.
so we took it down to.
Yeah, it's just out of which pocket we pay.
So last year we took it down to 25 grand, I believe, 20 or 25 grand. We left some in there for a rainy day. And the current contract year will replenish it roughly 62,000. would go back into there, so you'd probably be around 80.
Well, right now there's 65.
65. So you'd probably be about 85,000 in funds at the end of this year. And I believe you guys voted to use that to help pay for the truck off the top. New engine or whatever, so that'll be pretty cool. Most of that'll be used for the new engine.
Will we get the prepaid discount if we go with Pierce?
If you paid for it when you sign the agreement, you can get a prepaid discount. But it's like, when you sign the contract, you have to send a check, pay for it right away.
How do we typically do financing? Like, because we're gonna take out, obviously, we don't have the cash to pay for it front, but
So
are we gonna finance it through Pierce, or how do we typically finance these things?
In the past, the portion that the town had to pay, we get that money somewhere and
out of the-
loan or however, and then we make the payment.
Is that- I guess what I'm getting is, from a prepaid discount, do they care if we finance it, or does it have to be paid in cash to get that discount?
I don't know if they do any financing.
There would be no difference because they don't know where that money comes from.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you
I'm
got,
thinking in simple terms, like an auto loan,
right,
right?
like
Like
if
if-
you got a loan from a
Yeah.
separate bank and then you brought your share of it,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't care for
Okay.
financing it, obviously, because they got their check. But I don't know if they do any financing or not on their own.
I'm just, it's, at least on what I have, right, we're looking at an almost $12,000 discount, right, from a prepaid perspective. So I was just making sure we could still get a discount. If there was any
Oh.
hooks in there.
Well, we wouldn't be paying for it until March, though,
That's true.
so it wouldn't be a prepaid.
Never mind then.
I think like the engine, you guys opted to do cash on delivery is what was decided.
Yeah.
on. And they signed it early. I'm just explaining since you were on at the time.
Yeah.
We signed it early because that was the same situation. There was like a 20% or not a 20%. There was a pretty significant cost increase coming down the line.
Mhm.
So we signed it before that came up. We saved roughly 40 grand or whatever by signing it early. So it was a long lead delivery on engine 3, but because the town kind of wants to put both trucks on one loan, probably wouldn't do a long lead delivery, try to get it in the same year and get them both paid for at the same time. So that's what we made it sound like.
I guess, and again, I'm still new here. I'm just throwing an idea out here. I'm not married to this idea, but like, because we're doing it 2 trucks in the same year, is there anything we can do creatively, like to just make it so that 25 years from now, maybe one of us, if none of us are around, like make it easier from a budgeting perspective?
Not buying both at the same time as opposed to-
Instead of buying them at the same time. Buying one now, buying one. I'm just throwing an idea out just for
So
conversation.
that's what we're kind of working on with the tender situation now. Really, tender 2 is up for replacement next year, which is why we're looking to get it approved now.
Okay.
But what would happen is, normally we would sell tender 2 and have a brand new version of tender 2. And then 2 years from now, we'd have to do the same thing for tender 1. So what we want to do is keep the old tender 2, move it to reserve status. And then this new truck will be built the same as tender 2. So we have 2 large tenders because tender 1 is a lot smaller. It's only 2,000 gallons of water on it as opposed to 3,500. So we try to replace that now. Tender 2 would go to reserve, and then you could delay buying another tender for, we'll figure 10 years. Trying to get another 10 years out of that truck in reserve status, because it won't be used nearly as much if it's in reserve. So that'll spread out some of the trucks. The problem is that in 1996 to 2000, almost
We bought a lot of
every
trucks.
we purchased. Both tenders, squad, and engine 3 were all bought in that 3-year window. So now they're all coming up at the same time again. We're trying to spread it out a little bit, but
Okay.
And the new tender will have the bigger pump on it.
we'll have a bigger pump and we'll have the same size tank.
Yeah.
The tender's got a really small pump on it, which would be like they considered a trash pump. It's like 400 gallons per minute. The new one would be 1,200. Just to be used for relay pumping in rural areas. Current one, we can't really use that small of a pump for relay pumping.
Well, I can understand some of what you're indicating, that the village should help pay for the tenders because of our non-hydranted areas in the Pleasant Springs contract, but there has been issues brought up about the Pleasant Springs contract and whether our fire volunteers should be participating in that. So I have some concerns about relying on these trucks in order to keep the Pleasant Springs contract.
Sure.
So I'm concerned about that.
Why would we not want to keep the Pleasant Springs contract?
Because the strain that it has on our volunteer department.
But the volunteers are the one that came to us wanting to take on that additional work.
What Melissa is referring to is the email, the questionnaire that Christie came to me about when I made the comments about, there were some people that felt we took on a lot of work by doing the Pleasant Springs account, and they didn't feel that they were appreciated for doing that. So they said, there was a few people that said, why would we continue to do that? I think that's gone away. I haven't heard it in a while. I don't think when the contract comes up, we're going to say we're not going to do it. I'm confident in that.
Well, if there's even any remote chance of that, I would want to know it way ahead of time because of the fact that I don't need to have us involved with the negotiations with Pleasant Springs all of a sudden to find out that, because there's things, the politicians do things behind the scenes and have conversations with other politicians regarding this that you guys never hear of. And if all of a sudden we're going to get kind of backdoored into saying, nope, we're done, number one, I'm going to be very angry, because of the fact we weren't given the opportunity ahead of time to discuss it, and then number two is the fact that that contract, if you look at it, and you can tell your people the same thing, Chief, is that in reality, for the amount of money and the amounts or the types of equipment that you're gaining as a result of that contract, I think overwhelmingly go ahead and take precedence over somebody has to get up a little extra to go for a call. And they're not, and sure, you may have to go down there a lot, but especially since the tunnel of death has been closed, the road's all cleaned up for the most part around our area, your call volume has really gone down. And so, I still keep track of who's where and, from both the EMS side as well as the fire side. And I don't see that much going down where you have heavy work. You may get paged. I'll give you that. But by the time you guys get suited up and are probably just past Houston's quarry, it's like State Patrol says you're not needed, so you turn around and come home.
Yeah.
Inconvenienced a little bit, absolutely. But
I've got 3 members of the party here right now.
We like it because it helps us out. We got Engine 4 because of that contract. So it's a giant benefit.
I was just gonna say, isn't that money just a plus for the whole department?
Plus for everything.
Yeah.
But I think it benefits both. When you look at Engine 4, which is the first piece of apparatus, until the brush, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, the first piece of apparatus that was actually bought by both municipalities was the brush truck, which was only a little, the biggest piece of apparatus is the new Engine 3. But the last piece of apparatus that was purchased as a whole, I think, went back to the ladder, didn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. So what
So it's
I guess what he's
delayed quite a
referring to
bit.
is that the brush was the only truck that the municipalities had to put any money into since the ladder. So all of Pleasant Springs paid, Pleasant Springs paid for all of Engine 4. And almost all the brush truck minus the 12.5 each municipality had to kick in, so.
And all the air
And all
packs
the air packs, which was.
and gear.
around 200 grand, and then.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the air
a lot of
packs too.
turnout gear last year. So it's paid for a lot of stuff. You know,
And the call volume has dropped as
significantly.
Mr. Andrews stated, it's dropped probably what? Not quite half, but
It was 80 to 90 calls a year when we took over, and now we're in the 40s.
Yeah.
50s.
I think we're extremely grateful for Pleasant Springs and what they have done for us. I think whatever member that said that was maybe in that moment feeling like frustrated with maybe the municipalities at that point, and maybe feeling unappreciated by the municipalities, and that was their expression. Because they were feeling like, we've done all this work for Pleasant Springs. We've brought in this contract, we've brought in these funds for Pleasant Springs, and Pleasant Springs has done all of this great for us. And they were feeling unappreciated. And that was their expression in their words. And so, and that was something that Nick was relaying as another member had expressed, to kind of provide that information and that expression to you as leaders, so that you would understand how our members were feeling at that moment about what was happening within our organization. So it doesn't mean that's how we feel, all of us. I think there's still some feelings there, but we understand why things are happening, and we do need support. We always need support. We need our leaders to support us. And like I said, we really do appreciate your support. We appreciate Pleasant Springs' support and the funds that they're providing us to get those resources that we need. It doesn't mean we want to stop doing this work or stop supporting Pleasant Springs in the work that we do, because we love doing what we do. We wouldn't be here doing this job if we didn't love it. So.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too that could be taken back to your membership is the fact that when equipment has needed to be purchased, we haven't asked you, okay, it's like your latest turnout gear. I know there are several different manufacturers of turnout gear. All of them meet the NFPA minimums. But as you guys well know, and I do too from the EMS side, there's a lot of difference in quality. We have never asked you to skimp, nor have we sent you away saying, come back with a lower price, for the same items and stuff like that. So I would hope that by virtue of the fact that we have pretty much supported everything that you have come to us with, we haven't sent you away empty-handed, I guess, is what I'm saying. And to me, and again, I'm looking at it from 40 years on the EMS side, that when I get the tools to do my job without a lot of back talk or, come back with something different, to me, I feel appreciated, because yes, they care about me by giving me what I need, and I just, that's the message I kind of like to see go back, that,
I guess I'd like to clarify that wasn't my comment.
No, I know it's not.
Related to you guys.
Correct.
because
No,
you
I
guys
know
hear
it's
what
not
was
your
going
chief.
on, so,
I know it's not yours.
Because I'm an elected member of the department. If I'm still the chief at the time that the contract comes up, I'm going to be pushing to get the contract. 3 of the members in here are on the board. I know they all said they wanted to do it too. So that's what I can say is that, because somebody made a comment, I shared it. It doesn't mean the whole department feels that way. And it doesn't mean that I feel that way, but in the effort to be transparent and honest, I shared it with the membership, I guess. So that's all I can say about it.
And Steve, I think we can, between the 4 of us, I think we can all agree that the number of years that we've done it, I fully agree with what you said. At no time have we ever come to this body and been turned away and left without having our needs met, at least in some way. Maybe not always right away, but when it needed to be met. So
Yeah.
it's always been, you've always been
It's
very
always been
responsive.
at most an education process for some of us here who maybe don't have the fire or EMS experience and need to know some of the background in order to make an informed choice. But everybody here is fully supportive. I think I can, and, I think you guys, spread the word. Well, we're on the air, so people can listen to this meeting and actually see exactly what we said. So, or at least me anyway, but
It's educational too. It's educational for us internally to make sure our members understand the history behind it, why we've done it, why we've taken on it, what it provides for us. So that's much as our responsibility is making sure both municipalities or all three municipalities understand why was this done so many, because board members change and all that. So making sure everybody understands why it even exists and why we're doing it and what the benefits are. And it's been completely a pretty big upside for all.
The other thing I know is that this is the first time that it's being brought up that the village should take part in paying for the tender, so.
That was brought up by the town, so I'm just asking to get the tender replaced. That was, who's paying for it? That's
Right.
something the two municipalities have to work out. I didn't suggest that you guys should pay for it, and I didn't suggest that.
And that's fine. I'm just saying that this is the first time we're hearing of it, so it's not, it's always been that the town has the tenders. So that I definitely would like you guys to have the tenders replaced, but I can't vote for the village to pay for this unexpected $200 and some thousand dollars.
So then would you let the town keep all the money that we get from Pleasant Springs? Because we paid for all of those vehicles that go there.
So here's what I'd like to suggest. We're almost done reviewing the contract, the proposed revised contract. And in there, we address the equipment and the purchase. And so can we get our updated agreement and contract? So then it's all in there and we can, act based on an updated contract that may include those things. I'm not sure when you guys reviewed that section. That would be what I would like to. We're all we're reviewing the last part tonight.
Because the agreements, the existing agreements are sporadic and they're spread across multiple agreements. And it's like, we need to all be singing from the same sheet of music, right? So that we understand. And we're not trying to be difficult, but at the same time, we're just trying to understand that who pays for what, who owns what, right? Because to my knowledge, the existing agreements haven't always been followed to the letter.
So I think because, we had like the engine in our long-term planning we knew we were going to need to buy it and we knew we were co-buying it. This one we don't have in our long-term plan. So I don't think we can I don't feel comfortable voting on it tonight. I have no idea where this fits in the long-term planning, money. I just don't feel like, I feel like we need to take it back and have some more discussion and recognize that the prices will go up. I know, but I also don't think that that's a reason that I want to feel pressured to vote tonight. And I'd like us to get the contract done and then act on a newly agreed upon contract. We don't have to reference from the 90s. So I guess I would move to table the discussion on tender two, if someone else has a different.
I do have a little different take.
Okay.
we can pause this particular agenda item. So we just don't
Mhm.
kill it for tonight.
Mhm.
But because of the agreements further on down the agenda, we could,
Okay.
Is that the same as
No.
tabling it?
Melissa, do you have what we had decided on title and ownership of equipment in section 6?
As far as if we changed anything from what the agreement says.
Ownership of assets. What did we,
We're gonna put it on the assets. Section 6A.
We don't remember
Proportionate
what we
interest
talked
on the assets equal to the proportionate shares of expenses calculated in the same manner set forth in section 5E.
That's the draft, but I don't know what, because you guys discussed it at one of your meetings.
That's the
right?
last meeting, last full meeting.
Yeah, I didn't bring my notes from the previous one, but if I recall, I think it was discussed that we would keep it the way it is currently rather than the 50.
Yeah, we'd come up with a funding, with a expense model that was, it's, I think in pie charts, right, there's 50-50. 50% of it was equal, and then the other 50% was equalized.
Yeah. And that was not what we wanted to do from our last meeting. That was to keep it the proportionate share by equalized value.
yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, tabling and pausing are the same thing.
I guess from my notes, the ownership of the assets, we were just sharing.
Like they are currently, not in
Not
how
that
it's
there,
drafted.
that there weren't town-owned only.
See, but the current agreement as agreed, obviously the future one says we co-own it, but the current agreement says that you own the tender.
So what, so now
Correct.
you're arguing against that?
No, we're just trying to all sing from the same sheet of music. Like, do we want to use the existing agreement, or do we want
Go with.
to
what we're
table
doing,
this item,
Going with the new.
Can you
come to
table it?
this?
Can you table it till the end of the meeting?
that's what I was just saying, we could
Yeah.
pause the,
But I don't think we can vote on the I mean, even the contract,
No.
we'll still have to take it to our board
Correct,
for final approval.
right. Everything goes there.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't know that coming back to the tender discussion after we have the contract discussion would change anything as far as being
'Cause we
able to
can't-
vote on
We
it.
can't consider the agreement anyways today.
No, we're done with it. So you want to move on and come back or what?
I guess I would move to table it until we have the new contract, which I think is just a month or two away. I mean, we can
2
finish
months.
looking at it
it'd be a
tonight.
minimum of 2 months.
That still gives us enough time to get this in next year's budget if we need to, and gives us time to talk to the village about
If-
getting it.
Okay. If indeed he's talking, the chief that is talking a 20K, give or take a month price increase because of the fact quotes are only good for 30 days. So we're 40 grand out, we're 10% of the price of the vehicle, or almost, 2 months from now. And it's a foregone conclusion that we need it, number one. And who pays what for that vehicle granted, it's an unknown and, you know, I'd love to see it be done in September, but we've been working on this for 9 months or 10 months already. And what happens if it goes after the first of the year? So we're, you know, 60,000 or I just throwing numbers out kind of thing. I don't know that would be that much of a price increase. But I'm almost thinking, when would we wouldn't be paying for it till March anyway, right?
You'd be paying for it on delivery. And
No, but it's,
they're about a year.
It's,
like a
yeah,
little over a year
11 and a
out,
half
so
months or
you'd be
something like
paying
that.
for it in July.
Okay, what I guess, okay. So I'll just raise a question. Do we go ahead and approve the purchase of it and figure out how we're gonna pay for it later? Because either the town's gonna buy it or we're both gonna buy it. I mean, those are the only two choices, I guess. Right, Chris?
True.
And I would rather, whether I'm paying it with you guys or paying for it by myself, I'd like to save 20 grand or whatever. I mean, that'll buy hose, that'll buy turnout gear. It'll buy brake pads, you know, for the other truck. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. I just, you know,
So could it be, you know, that the payment would be based on to be still just ratified, or I don't know, the new contract? Could that,
Yeah, you
even
can
though
make
we
a
don't,
motion. You
we
can make a
don't
motion.
know what exactly that will say, but the purchase and financing would be based on the new
the
contract?
further discussion. Yeah, it would work with me.
Yeah.
And it still has to go to our boards for final approval.
true, right. But I'm just saying, you'll be going to your board a lot sooner than in October.
What you're saying, Steve, let's let Nick go order the truck. We can figure out how to pay for it later.
Yeah, especially if we
Similar to
got a
how we do
year.
other repairs.
Especially we got a
Right.
year.
I get it. You have till, just for my own awareness, you have until what's the drop dead date for that quote?
You just need a new quote on Thursday, so.
30 days after.
30 days from Thursday. No, August.
Is our next board meeting?
September.
Monday. Monday.
Second.
It's August 2nd.
Yeah, a week from today.
Now, go ahead, Chris. I'm not the chair. I just,
I'm looking for a motion or something.
I
buy
move,
now, pay later.
yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. I move we consider the tender 2 replacement and payment will be further discussed.
You gotta go with Pierce.
Yes, Pierce, sorry, for 461, 397.
With payment to be determined at
Delivery date.
before the delivery date.
Yeah, finance to be determined at a future meeting.
I mean,
Yeah.
could we say based on the
90 days, no
upcoming
payment.
contract, or somehow tie it
Tied
to
to the agreement.
Yeah,
the
tie it
agreement?
to the agreement
Based
and
on
do it
the
that way. And
new
just,
language?
and let him order the truck and get it ordered. And we can, like Steve said, we can save $20,000.
Okay, there was a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion and a second to okay the Pierce Manufacturing quote for 461,397 with the payment to be determined.
Based on the agreement.
In the future approved agreement.
With any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discuss and consider building access policy.
So we talked about this in the last meeting. This is nothing in writing. Something happens with somebody entering the building, you can't ask them to leave because you don't have a policy that prohibits them from being there. Try to make it as simple as possible, just people who have permission to be in there can be in there. As long as they're escorted, I guess. So we wanted to have you guys look it over and make sure it's okay before we
I make a motion to approve the building access policy as written.
Second,
Motion as second to approve the visitor and facility access policy as presented. Discussion? What happens when you have a meeting of all the fire chiefs there, or, I don't know,
They'd be considered members that are.
Any visitors or any access should be
Are they-
Well, they'd be escorted because if we're having a meeting and the fire chief's there, a member of the fire department would be there. That's what we're saying with Deer Grove. Deer Grove was selecting something for you unless they're.
won't be a problem for those.
It's more so the concern that once you're in the building, nothing is locked other than the medicine room. So if you're in the building, you can get to any of the fire trucks, you can get to the ambulance, you can get to anything. I mean, if people don't have a real reason to be there, or they have, some intentions that aren't maybe good, it'd be really easy to leave the building with a lot of stuff. A lot of really expensive stuff to replace. So that's more so what it's about.
And I see the exception for the folks who use the weight room. Are those generally none?
Those are
Right.
Generally members or their families. So like, we allow our members or their immediate family to use it, but they have to have a signed waiver on file, so we know who they are. And we have a sign in for the weight room. So it's
Great.
not just random people usually.
you're not renting it out like a gym club or anything?
No.
Nick's gym.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, so you'll post that somewhere?
Yeah, it's gonna be on all the entrances.
Okay.
We got laminated signs. Signs made up better. It's okay.
Discuss and consider tire replacement policy.
So this one comes back to when the ladder came back from inspection, one of the things they wrote up was that the tires were older than 7 years. For those of you that don't know, there's an NFPA policy that says that fire truck or emergency apparatus, you have to replace the tires every 7 years, regardless of how many miles you put on them, how much they get used, what condition they're in. Now, that's an NFPA recommendation, so that's not a law, it's not adopted by the state. We don't have to follow it. I guess the question that I'm asking is, since the municipalities own the trucks, do you want to follow that procedure or do you want to not follow?
What does the tire manufacturer say?
How many miles are on the tires?
What's that?
How many miles are on the tires?
Well, like, probably hardly anything. I mean,
Probably just because those trucks, they're not light, right? And just,
Yeah, so-
they're parked more than they're
engine four would
driven.
be the example I'd use. The easiest one I can tell you is that they've never been replaced. The truck is an 08. So they're more than 7 years. And the truck's got 23,000 miles on it. So a normal set of tires, your house or your average car, usually 40 to 50,000 miles easily. And
And if you're talking like
And
the
those
ladder
spares are
truck,
probably
is it
$1,000 a piece.
yeah, so I actually got prices on, I figured if we replaced tender two, or if we got rid of tender one, we wouldn't have to replace those tires. The squad's coming up for replacement soon, so I didn't price that one out, but I priced the ladder, engine four, and tender two, the 3 trucks that would be sticking around for a while.
At least your screen didn't shatter.
So ladder one, the cost of tires for the whole truck is $6,539.96. Engine four is $2,818, and tender two would be $4,912. So just those 3 trucks, you're talking $12,000 to $13,000 in tires. So
I guess, I mean, I don't ride around in the trucks, right? So like, I would look at the guidelines and say, well, the guidelines are there for a reason, right? But I guess, does anybody in the department have any like if you were to ask anybody in the department, how, like, I'm curious from the expert's opinion, like, what would the feedback be to us? Granted, I don't have to ride in the truck, so I'm not an expert, so I'd rather ask the experts.
So Kevin is a heavy diesel mechanic.
I would replace them, because at a certain age, they get dry rot. And I mean, they're severe use when we use them. Sometimes we can get credit for tires at Pomps. It's something we could check into, so it wouldn't cost us maybe so much.
You could resell.
You could resell if they're at 50%.
Yeah.
But as far as liability goes, if somebody would get hurt, it could bite us.
At one point, we were doing it a long time ago, and then we kind of stopped because it was really expensive and
So you're saying that all three of those trucks would need to
The
have new
ladder-
tires?
the ladder is pretty, I think they're okay for now. There were some that were close, but they've already had some replaced, like the steers were
Yeah.
replaced 2 years ago. The steers are really expensive on the ladder. Those were just replaced 3 years ago, so I just put that in there so you could see it to the future. And granted, it's not gonna be the same price in the future, but putting it in perspective. The tender, they're all older than 7 years. Engine 4, they're all older than 7 years. So
I'd be more worried about the tender with all the weight of the water. than
I mean, you could do the ladder 2 years from now or a year from now and do some of the trucks now and stagger everything else. So you do so many tires each year.
would you change all the tire, like, and again, I'm just asking because I don't know, like, would you ever do you do the full set or do you change like steers 1
I
year and
preferably would do
then?
the whole truck because then there's no confusion, but
I figured,
when it was getting done before, it was getting done in stages. So like the rear tires on the ladder are older than the steers.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to do all of them at the same time, but I think it just creates confusion when you do it that way. I think it's easier.
it's like on your own car, you change only two, you're like, which ones did I change last time?
So that's what that one over the 7 years. Part of the reason I bring it up is because, you know, I asked one of our neighboring departments, Deerfield, about it, and what I got from them was that they never changed them at 7 years because they thought it was a joke, and then they had a steer tire blow out while they were doing kid fire truck rides. So it was a truck full of kids and the tire blew out. There was no indication that it was in any way damaged or, you know, so it's a liability. I guess, like I said, I wanted to bring it to you guys because you guys own the trucks.
I guess my suggestion would be that you put it in the 22 budget and you replace them in January, February, after we have a new budget.
For both trucks, you would put
It'd
in
be all
the-
three.
all three?
There were 3 trucks, right?
There's 3 trucks, but the ladder has
The ladder.
most of the
Okay.
ladder. I think the ladder is already okay for a little bit, but the 2 definitely need them right away.
Guess do you, again, just asking, do you want to do the 7 years or do you want to do sooner in terms of the policies?
I'd keep it at 7 years.
Seven.
I wouldn't change them sooner if you don't have to.
Okay.
You know,
I make a motion to change the tire replacement policy to change tires on the apparatus every 7 years as recommended by NFPA.
So is he doing it now or next year or?
I guess the question was, do you
I
want
think
to,
it can wait till the next year's budget. I don't think it has to be done right this second.
Okay.
It's an unexpected cost. I think we just push it out to next year's budget.
Do you want to get them like replaced right away in January, or can it wait like till the snow is gone, or?
I mean, it can probably wait.
I guess the question is, you had 2 questions, right? One, do you want to change the tires? And then 2, the policy question.
Yeah.
So I guess my motion was around the policy.
We'll see at 7 years.
I'll second his motion if nobody else has.
No one else has. So there's motion and a second, to set the tire replacement policy at 7 years per the NFPA recommendations. Discussion?
Just a question. You got time to get back to us on this. Do you know what tire manufacturers say?
You know, I can ask the town shop.
Could you just find out, just out of curiosity, you know? I think I know what they're gonna say, but
I think, I mean, we're kind of covered from the liability because we're doing DOT inspections every year on the trucks. And part of the DOT inspection is they sign off on the tires. So if they said that the tire was good and it blew out tomorrow, then it wouldn't be on us, it would be on whoever did the DOT inspection. Which is why we do, you're not required by law to do a DOT inspection. We do it to cover ourselves from the liability. So in reality, if a tire blew out tomorrow, you could go back to, in this case, Reynolds and say, you said that tire was okay and it blew out, not even a week later. You know, you should be liable for this, not.
Okay.
Can we vote on that?
Nope.
No. Okay, all those in favor of the 7-year policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discuss and consider future apparatus replacement.
So we're kind of talking about it right now with the tenders. But the next truck that would be up for replacement, I drafted that memo and you sent it out to all the village boards a couple months ago. It was a memo on the schedule. The squad would be up for replacement in 2023, meaning it would have to be approved in next year's budget, so 2022 budget for replacement. Are we keeping to the schedule that we laid out, or I guess we never, I don't know if the committee ever approved that that's the schedule we're gonna follow, 25 years?
Guess I can't help but ask, but like, you know, a lot of stuff's getting really old right now, and we, over back in 96, everything was changed, in a 3-year span. It's like, and again, I'm not writing checks here, so I'm just new and asking questions, but I'm like, it feels like once you get to like 23, 24, 25, like stuff really starts to break really often.
Yes.
And so I'm like, is 25 years too long is my question.
So,
Or do you go apparatus by apparatus and you say policies, you know, tenders get used so often, ladders, engines, that sort of thing, just to kind of, one, to space it out, and two, like, you could nickel and dime this thing to death, right?
I think you're okay with doing like something like that. So like 25 years on a tender seems accurate because they don't go out that often.
Yeah.
An engine goes out a lot. So should that one be replaced sooner? Well, we're seeing that with the engine 3. We waited to 25 years and last year we put 12 grand into it. This year we're gonna have to put another couple grand into it. The year before we put in a bunch of money. So it's like, as they get older, they.
When does it get too expensive to fix?
Like, is there a tipping point, like, in the lifetime of an engine where
So
it's
part
like,
of that memo was I asked all our agencies around us what they did. And everybody was kind of a mixed bag. So Sun Prairie, as soon as they get 15 years. So what NFPA actually says is that 15 years, any frontline pumper, so engine, the 2 engines and the ladder, they recommend they go to a reserve status. So they're not going out the door first. So what Sun Prairie does is at 15 years, they replace the truck. They're just done with it. They don't move it to reserve. They just sell it and buy a new truck. Well, they got a bigger budget. I mean, there's Sun Prairie, you know, it's a lot bigger municipality, but Stoughton hits about 20 years and they start replacing them based on mechanical issues. Deerfield just goes out, rides it out to 25 years like what we're doing, and Marshall and they're kind of similar, 25 years also. So it's kind of entirely up to you. There's no rule that says you can have to do it at 25 years. It's just, it gets to the point where you're fixing stuff all the time. It works.
the last 10 years, it sounds like you nickel and dime it to death. Somewhere in that 10-year frame, it just gets too damned expensive. And NFPA recommends reserve status at 15. What happens after, when it's in reserve status? What's the recommendation? Like, do they have a recommendation, like at a certain time, you just junk it?
25.
25.
I wonder if this is something that the fire study that the village is paying for could give us a recommendation on.
They could. Yeah. So,
But there's always value in a truck, right? Isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, you can sell it. I don't know how much you're gonna get. Like, you guys asked how much we would get for engine 3 when we sell it. It depends on the market. It depends on.
yeah, I'm just saying, but there is still some intrinsic value.
Yes. So like, a lot of the trucks right now, so like engine 3, the 2 tenders, and the squad are what's called a commercial chassis. So they took a Peterbilt chassis and they built a fire truck on top of it. So if we sell any of those trucks, they have a high probability of selling, even as somebody who's not interested in a fire truck, what they'll do is they'll pull the chassis out from under it. And it's a pre-emissions truck, meaning that nowadays they put all these emission things on there like depth tanks and it derates the horsepower.
Don't have to mix.
So a lot of people like to buy older trucks because there's no emissions on them and they can get better horsepower, better performance out of them. So they'll take the truck, strip the fire truck off of it and put the chassis on. So, you know, they can do that because it's a fire truck. That was one of the things we looked at doing the glider when we were pricing out this. But for us, it was so expensive, it wasn't really worth the cost of doing a glider. But there is resale value. I don't know. It's all dependent.
I know it's all market.
Yeah. You can put it out in front of the fire station with a for sale sign on it and try to get whatever you want out of it, and somebody might pay it. You know? And then the brush trucks.
I might look
Put it on
at
Craigslist.
I would stay with the 25 years.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might be the best, you know, and there again, just if you got something that's going to shouldn't, I bet in a, you know, in a minute at 17 years, then bring it up to us.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to decide
I
that
think
then.
what I was trying to ask is like, you guys like to, everyone likes to really plan out your budget, you know. Right now, you're not expecting to spend 250,000 on a tender, so that's not gonna go over as easy as if you knew that at this year, you're gonna have to spend 250,000. It's easier to sell than getting a approved job. So you're right.
I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, you know, Cottage Grove is growing, right? And this kind of thing's only gonna become a bigger issue over the next 20, 30 years, right?
It's
So-
never not gonna be an issue. I mean, because of the fact
Totally
that
Hopefully I won't be here.
Yeah, I mean, with an engine costing, you know, $1 million or so, you can afford to pay those last 5 or 7 years some repair costs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot to be in, right? Because we're growing, we're gonna have more fire calls just because we're adding more population, right? So it's just statistically, right? So I mean, you know, to Steve's point, right? You always want to have the best equipment, right? And if stuff keeps breaking, this stuff, it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? And it just, yeah, I don't know.
So, you know, I guess I'd say like in the last 3 years, I would estimate you spent almost 20 grand in repairs to engine 3. That's 20 grand for the used ones.
And what's it gonna cost to replace it?
That one's 650. So yeah, I mean, it's.
so you're at 3% of cost of new, 4%,
Yeah.
which in the grand scheme of things, right, I would not like to put a dime into it, you know, normally, but yeah, but if we can get safe operation for a couple of more years because of that extra 3 or 4%, whatever it is, I'm all for that too.
There's departments that run them, and I mean, there's departments that still have 1980 fire trucks on them, you know.
I mean, you know, it'd be nice if we could like support Sun Prairie's level of spending, but we, you know,
Realistically, we just can't.
yeah, we just realistically can't.
I get it.
Is it something that we feel like we have to decide tonight, or can we wait for?
No, it's just kind of, you know, if we're gonna do a tender, or if we're gonna do a squad in 2023, like it would be scheduled, then in the next couple months, we gotta start stacking out that truck and building it, because it's, I mean, from the tender, we've been working on that since January, maybe, December, January, so we've been working on that for like 7 months now. You know, the engine was almost a year. We worked second one out, so it takes quite a bit of time, and it's function meetings and stuff, so you gotta, it's not something you slap together last minute, I guess. So,
Is the squad, the 2023 based on 25 years?
yes.
Then I feel like I feel that just makes sense because we're not going to go more than 25 years. I can't imagine. So, but I'm wondering if we can see what the study
Let's see what the study says.
information gives us,
Yeah.
and maybe we will have a.
I mean, I'm inclined to do per truck type, right? Like, because your tenders don't go out much, your engines go out all the time, right? So it's like, but I'm not making a motion, but I'm curious what the study would say, and then I'd be curious what, you know, the experts would say is like, you know, obviously money's no object, but like if you could design a policy that was more fine tuned like that, what would that look like?
I can pretty much guarantee you all the experts are gonna expect us to replace the truck at 15 years. I mean, realistically, they're in the job to sell fire trucks.
No, I meant, when I said experts, I meant the membership, right?
Oh,
Like,
no, again, I agree.
Yeah.
Let's talk to the people that are
Yeah.
operating the vehicles, you know. They'll be the ones to tell us, like, and like I told the chief earlier, you know, if you think you got a lemon in the garage, you know, let us know about it and we can work to try to fix it.
The struggle there though is like, it's unexpected, right? I'm just thinking from a budget standpoint. Like I'm in total agreement with you. This is a rock and a hard place situation.
Yeah, but I mean, who's to say that we're even gonna be in the same position in 17 years? You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. I need more data at the end of the day, basically what I need, right? So if the membership thought, hey, committee, we think we should do engines every 15 years and everything else can go to 25, like that would be a huge help for us, right? To know, okay, well that fine tunes the conversation, right? Right now, the agenda items are just kind of a blanket statement. How do you want to proceed, right? So like, I guess that's my aspect to you is like, if we had more data, we're obviously doing the fire study. Do you guys have an opinion, right? And if you know already, you know, feel free to speak up, but I need more data to be able to recommend something, just because, you know, I don't know what the first thing there is to know about a fire truck. It's the when you change it or tires or whatever. So, you know, more data.
I remember the first time I saw a bill for tires, I almost crapped my pants. It was like really expensive.
Right.
We haven't gotten any cheaper.
No, but you know, and who's to say that they are gonna get any cheaper? You know, that's just, that's kind of the business they're in, is to sell tires.
I mean, what we were talking about with the tender, that even from what I understand from these different manufacturers is that even if tomorrow the market collapses, they're not gonna go back on their prices. Once you set their prices, they're only going one way. They're gonna go up.
Yeah.
They're not going back down, you know.
Well,
Back
I
in
mean, like,
2009, when we bought engine 4, that truck was $299,000 we bought that truck for. Nowadays, if we bought that truck, it'd be $550,000 for the same truck. So, you know,
well, just look at what it's gonna cost to replace that ladder truck. You know, that's gonna be $1 million.
At least.
It's gonna be at least $1 million.
$1.5 million.
yeah, probably 1.5.
So you want to have this on the next agenda too?
Take it as it comes.
Moving on then, discuss and consider replacement of the grease trap with garbage disposal. When I had the grease trap pumped this year, they told me that it was starting to rot from the inside out. So then I checked with our same building inspector, and we do not have to have a grease trap. They're telling me now. So EMS would like to get rid of the grease trap and have a garbage disposal in there. And
what happens when they get the garbage disposal plugged?
well, Monona Plumbing gave us a price on getting rid of the grease trap and putting in a garbage disposal for $885. I contacted Usselman's. He did not give me a written estimate, but he said he would not put in a garbage disposal because they're going to run rice and they're going to run noodles down. And they tend to go part way and become concrete.
Is that septic or sewer?
Huh?
Is that septic or sewer on that building?
Sewer. So that's his opinion.
Much rice.
Just
today.
ban
Somebody dumping a 25-pound sack, right? Check a plumbing.
Chinese food tonight.
Put in a compost bin next to the.
You got a
Did you
garbage.
put a sign, no rice or noodle?
I think they can read that.
Yeah, there'll be that sly guy going, oh, yeah. Well,
I'd hate to go against the word of a licensed plumber or whomever this Uselman dude was, but the problems related to all this stuff aren't because of rice and noodles. It's the fat that the grease trap typically catches, but if it's.
How much rice and
No, you
noodles
don't
came out of
put
it?
that down the drain now.
We
You
don't.
take it out.
Well, we would
But
continue
if
the
you
same
have a
trend.
garbage disposal, it's going to go into the pipes.
I don't see pasta and noodles or pasta and rice being in the majority of the meals that we do consume.
I don't know what you eat over there, and I don't care.
I guess, do we need a lesson on how to clean dishes?
I mean,
You scrape the big stuff into the
So-
trash, then you rinse it.
either way, you're gonna have to replace something, right?
Huh?
Either way, you're going to have to replace something, correct?
We could leave it the way it is and
Wait for it.
continue pumping the grease trap, and at some point, yeah, it's going to eat out because it is metal, and then you just maybe have somebody run plastic pipe that.
All these homes have grease traps in them.
Well, the garbage disposal runs out eventually anyway, so I don't feel like it's much
My
different.
garbage disposal has been out for.
So the reason why Monona said a garbage disposal is because the new grease trap that's made by that same manufacturer and in that style, it's too big to fit in the cabinet anymore. It's way bigger, is what they said. So that's part of the reason they went to disposal, because you couldn't fit a grease trap in there anymore.
Right. Our building inspector tells us we don't do not have to have a grease trap any longer.
Correct. As long as you did-
Motion to approve Monona Plumbing's.
Oh, even if we don't have a,
Second.
so you gotta have electrical with it.
Well, that's fine. But it's a separate thing from electrical solutions, so, right?
He's just running the power to the garbage disposal.
Right, but I'm just saying is, we have two separate quotes, so I was figuring, I know they're related, so I just figured we'd do one motion for each. Unless you wouldn't want that, Mr. Chair.
Can't have one without the other.
Give them the garbage disposal, but don't have power to it.
Yeah.
Get the little rips underneath there and turn it.
Noodles will get stuck in there. Although it's the 885 and 694.
Yeah, and I had called Accurate. They came out, looked at it, but he's never sent a quote.
I'll second Steve's motion.
He was the gentleman that did the exterior light at the station.
Got a motion in a second.
Motion and a second to put in the garbage disposal from Monona Plumbing and the electrical solutions for the electrical work for the garbage disposal. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Is that from the ESG fund?
I don't know where they're gonna get the money from. He didn't say.
The town's portion can come from undesignated.
Emergency service building. What do we have?
There's
We got about $11,000 that we haven't spent.
Property repair fund, the 9298. I'm just reading that.
That's what I thought. Isn't it on this sheet?
Last page.
Yeah. So 92.
Should we take it out of that then?
Property repair.
Just
Okay. So
Because some of the money we've spent,
take it out of the 92, 98. Yeah. Okay. Discuss and consider other needs for emergency service building maintenance. We just got the thing from Great Lakes Roofing.
Says we're fine.
I'm not interested in saying that.
I'm a little bit more confused about what's gonna happen then.
Oh, there's a couple caveats to that. Nick and his staff identified kind of a opening in the decorative area of the hose tower, I guess. I don't know how to describe that. If you look to the east and whatever part, there's windows up there. But when they installed those windows, between the window and the masonry, there's openings that are allowing water in. That's not within the scope of the repair of the roofer. So that would have to be a mason or a window contractor or somebody that also has a lift that can go up about 9,000 feet to get to them. But as far as the roof goes, the roof looks fine. He did repair a small spot that he found as part of the free inspection, but can't make a definitive recommendation as to when it will need to be replaced. The 3 to 5 years is just a best guess, largely because of the ballast on the roof. He's not gonna start pulling away rocks to look at the membrane underneath. But he does make reference to there that you can see some deterioration of the roof itself by as its terminating ends begins to shrink and pull away from the spots that it's terminated at. So those will only get worse and typically will be worse when under load, especially in winter. His 3 to 5 years is a standard lifespan of a roof of that type, knowing that it's from original construction, which was what, 96?
Something like
99.
99.
Put it on the 3-year replacement list.
thank you, Chief.
Save
for
your
going through
money
the
now.
effort.
Yeah, so and that's a best
your money
guess. Just like anything else, those prices aren't gonna go down.
No.
Wouldn't expect it to.
Hopefully in 3 years, 3 or 5 years, when it needs to be done, the stuff will actually be available as opposed to being on a waiting list, so.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna have to choose between a new roof and a new truck. No.
Maybe we
Or a
can use the,
new, or a new ambulance. We haven't
hold on this,
picked on the
let's,
chief.
let's save all the tires and use those as rubber for the roof.
And I just, why can't they build these things with a peak?
Well, we can put one on it now if you want.
I mean, you could, but I think probably to put a peak roof on, you're talking like triple.
It's
Base
steel
it south.
roof. It's steel roof and they have to replace it.
Yeah, at any point in time, you wanted to put a peaked roof on that, you're more than welcome to. But it's gonna be, I would guess, double what replacing the roof will be.
Is it? I'm just.
That's just my guess. I mean, I'm a paramedic by trade, not a building contractor, so. Nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Do we have anyone on the department in the trades that know about the windows? How to seal that?
Don't you, isn't that something that you have to like tuck?
We don't have a mason.
That's like a masonry
We don't have a
foundation
plumber or a
issue.
mason, so if you know anybody that's for that, we need those 2 trades.
And there's gonna be good portions of that that are gonna be very difficult to get to. I mean, you could probably get to 2 sides using the ladder truck, but the other 2,
You get a lot of it from the
Skyhook.
inside of the ladder.
Sky.
It's 8 feet up on the inside,
Right,
so
yeah, they might have to do it like, yeah, from the inside, push it
the
out.
ladder up.
There's nothing leaking, right? I mean, is that leaking right now?
Yeah, water comes in.
It's in the hose tower. The hose tower, is obviously the
Yeah.
longer section.
Yeah.
And it's all masonry. So when it leaks, it just runs down a block wall into a sump. So there's
It's a water feature.
Help you sleep at night.
Internal waterfall, feng shui.
It's only bad when it rains.
And right now, it's not raining, so.
Yeah, it's perfect, no.
Any other needs?
Don't you have a thing for rocks in here?
The bill for the
Yeah,
rocks.
when the stone around the perimeter of the building is no longer available. When we took out the dead bushes in front of the one room and put those big rocks, they got what was available and put around those. If we did those same, use that same stone the rest of the way around the building, and I did talk to the paid staff, and they indicated that if we got it and dumped it in several locations, they would spread it, but the rock would cost approximately $750.
It just keeps going up.
What was that about nickel and diamond?
Make it pretty.
$700 for rocks.
I mean, I probably.
$750, maybe. That was the answer.
Shortchanging.
But they spread it. so that-
Yeah, we wouldn't have any labor costs.
Who's the contract here?
Do we need a motion?
If you want to do that or not.
Does it look empty?
What? I'm sorry.
Does it look empty or weird with the?
There are places where it's really all gone.
Yeah, there's spots where the fabric is showing through.
Yeah,
And because of what was done, we have a spot between the big rocks that has one type of stone and then it's almost like pea gravel and the rest is like crushed lava stone type thing, crushed granite. So it has a different look to it. It'd be
yeah.
cool to have it be symmetrical.
I'll make a motion to approve the $750 for the rock around the ESB out of the ESB. repair fund.
There was a motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Last item, discuss future use of emergency service building. I asked both chiefs to take a look at most of it's probably in the basement where it's really not being utilized to its greatest potential to see what should be done with it or if there is a use. And also the fishbowl, AKA radio room. The heaters on the two outside walls there do not work. They can't be repaired unless we tear out the cabinets. So somebody needs to tell us what they want to do with this space. And I thought they could, there's offices down there and I don't know. Who needs
I
what?
think it's you give us an answer and we give you a retort type discussion of, to reimagine anything takes money. How much money are you wanting us to spend? If the answer is zero, then it's going to be difficult to reimagine anything.
What do you have need for?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Otherwise, just don't leave stuff laying around so that it looks like it's a cluttered mess.
it's all being staged for sale and for destruction. That stuff will all be clean within a month or two.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So do you have any plans or?
Well, we've discussed the radio room already and what we can do in that to make it a more useful space for us and how to redo it once the cabinets get taken out. And Chris knows that discussion. That's something between Nick and I that we said what would be best for that space. Now the basement, I would take the full building into discussion and be like, are we using what is right now EMS quarters the best way we could? Even the EMS office is the best we could. And certainly we could reimagine those spaces, but again, it takes dollars. So we can come up with a grandiose plan and say that we would like, for instance, $5. And you could say, nah, we only really wanted you to spend $2. But then why did we spend all the effort on $5 when you're going to tell us $2?
But my point of this whole argument is then, like I was telling the chief here earlier, why not just tell us the truth and say what you want to, give us your plan. And let us know how much it costs.
And then we'll
That's
decide
all
if
we
we have
can, it's all we can
dollars
do.
to do it
At that
or
point,
not.
tell them no.
Give us the blank check scenario, and then that gives us more data to do something with, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you, I mean, because I have this conversation with my wife all the time, right? Like they get nickel and dime to death. I'm like, well, let's do this, let's do this. I mean, like if you just come in with everything, your wish list, then I can use it as a
Sort
pick
through.
list. Yeah,
It
you know?
Hey,
sounds
we're not
like you
gonna
guys
get
don't
some.
really have a wish list, or do you? Do you have a list of things? It feels like we're saying to you, give us a wish list, even though I feel like we don't have any money to do anything with your wishes. So
I'm the cycle, right?
I'm a little,
No zero.
yeah, it feels like an effort right now, and why?
So
I guess
I'll give you a for instance, with the EMS, my office, Mandy's office, and our crew quarters. Right now, we have 2 bedrooms with bathrooms and then 2 pseudo bedrooms that kind of are bedrooms, but they don't have lights that work by themselves, and some recliner chairs and a kitchen table. That's also the space that we expect our EMS staff to do their daily business in. So when you go to the office to do your business work, you don't do it from a recliner chair or a kitchen table. You do it from a desk with a defined computer. The part of my reimagining would be to bust down all the walls in mine and Mandy's office, turn that into a cubicle space for the staff to work in, and then put mine and Mandy's offices in the basement.
That to me, that's a blank check
Yeah,
scenario.
that's
Like
what, that's
write
what.
that down and send it to us, and we
Yeah.
can do something with that.
Are those
Then we can get
walls
quotes.
cement blocks? So, okay.
And they're not load bearing, so.
I feel-
Oh, sorry.
I'm not, I mean, we can get quotes, but I mean, we have to come up with $250,000 for a new tender. So, I would feel bad to ask you guys to go through all this work for us to, like, to your point earlier, say, what are you asking us for this for? We had 0 money. And then here you gave us your wish list. So do we actually have money to do something to what Chief is talking about?
Yes,
Okay. If,
the town does.
well.
I can't speak for you.
I mean, we can,
But here's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, just taking a step back really quick, right? Like, I mean, like, there's been a lot of in my 2 meetings in this committee, like, there's been a lot of conversation around like different maintenance things, right? Like, there's the windows, there's the furnace, there's the AC, there's the.
I think we only have 1 furnace left to replace.
It's like, just, and I'm speaking as a nobody, right? Like, in terms of what, I don't know anything yet, but it's just like, if I had a list, or if we had like a running list of things that we know about and then a wish list, right? I could compare and contrast, and we could start to plan for things, right? Because it just feels like, and I get it, stuff breaks, right? But like, in terms of this stuff that we've known that has been broken for a while or needs repair or would be nice, like just some sort of running list would be, and if I'm asking for something like way out of, like, David, you're never gonna get that, just let me know. But, like, both a wish list and a need list would be awesome, because it would really help fine tune the conversation, I feel like.
I mean, windows, as a for instance, are from 1999.
Yeah, but that whole building is from 1999, basically. I mean, that's just,
Right.
it's just.
But if you want to take
used
small
up.
bites at things, as opposed to saying our remodel is going to include windows, why don't you say, okay, we're going to look at windows in the meeting room and the EMS areas, because I can say the west or the east facing windows leak a ton of air. And
either when the sun
An
shines.
east facing window.
So,
It's east, right?
Oh, in the meeting room?
No, in the 2 bedrooms.
Oh. One window in each, isn't there?
One window in each.
2 meters, yeah, 2 windows.
Yeah,
facing
and
the east.
yeah, east facing and south facing in the meeting room.
But there again, that should be on your list. I know when I replaced my windows, we got a ton of savings in heat and everything else. But, that's a house. This is a little bit different. Yours is a more of a place of business, so to say.
I guess what I heard you guys ask of the chief was what to do with the basement space and then, so I wasn't thinking windows and basic building repair. I was thinking you're asking them for creative ways that they could use.
But
that space.
either way, they can give us a list of 30 items. The replacing the windows can be the 30th item on the list. But that's our decision to make them at this committee level.
I mean, since I'm asking for everything in the world, right? Like, if you could rank those priorities too, would be helpful too. Right?
Sure.
Like, I'm just trying to make the most of the time, right? In terms of like, when I work in my day job, right? Like customers come to me like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, great. If you give me a list of everything that you want, it helps us all kind of help the conversation, right? And like, I'm all about blank check scenarios. Granted, we don't have a blank check, but like, at least if you tell us where your head's at, right? Then we have a place to have a conversation in terms of compromise, right? So you want the walls knocked down, but we could do that, but maybe we can't afford the desk. And just an example, right? So maybe we have to think outside the box. And I think that'll help the conversation.
Try AmFam for used.
and what? AmFam for use.
And at some point, there's 2 big drains pits in the apparatus that will have to have pumped. And each one's $150.
There's the 2 ceiling fans out. There's one in the apparatus bay and one in the host tower that's cleaned out.
So there's 3? 2.
One more furnace to go.
Keep my fingers, that one makes through the winter. Okay. Moving on then. Discuss review current fire department agreements, draft updated consolidated fire agreement. So did we leave off with starting section 7?
I think we were.
You made it through pages 4 through 7 last time.
7D is what. So we need to start with 7E.
7E. I'm okay with E 1, 2, and 3.
Under E?
Under E,
Yeah, the appraisal process.
What's that, Melissa?
The appraisal process, under appraisal process.
Seems good to me.
You guys already have the insurance.
Yep.
mhm.
Oh,
think everything is that one.
Anything in miscellaneous?
So,
So if we go back to the beginning and just review,
Do you have all the notes? I wasn't in
No.
all of the meeting.
So I guess I would suggest then maybe if we can have, if it's okay to have our attorney then put all together what we discussed at the past 3 meetings and then have it for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then,
I guess the big question I had, right, at the last meeting that we hadn't hammered out was section 5E. If we landed on anything.
that's what we were just discussing earlier.
Well, we brought it up, but we didn't land on a
Um,
decision. I mean, like, we have to,
Well, if we wrote it up the way that it was previously, how the current agreements are, that's what I thought. And then,
I don't have Rick's notes, but like, I feel like at the last meeting we did, like, there wasn't a definitive, everybody agreed on anything, but maybe I remember it differently.
All I've got written down here is just that we had talked about a 50-50 split.
for maintenance of the building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for the ESP. Which is,
So
it is now.
things, we kind of had a discussion about section 6, title and ownership of equipment.
Did we come to an agreement on section E? 50,
It's 50-50.
50, and that's for general expenses, right? Not
Right.
equipment.
Right.
Okay. And then which section are you referring
6A.
to? 60.
Split down, bills are split down the middle. 50-50.
That's, yeah, for the ES, for the maintenance.
Okay. Section 6, which one?
A,
6A.
Which refers us back to 5E.
Yeah.
What?
Which refers us back to 5E.
right.
So it's 50-50 ownership of all assets, including tenders.
Who, the people?
No, tenders.
I'm just kidding.
Nick, I guess we share you equally again.
Where's the equipment? Is equipment in there?
Oh, that's the assets, isn't it?
Equipment is assets.
I know, but as far as cost expense goes, is that part of 5E?
Correct.
The vehicles are in there, equipment is in there.
That's basically
That's
the
just
meat
for
of
the
this is 5E.
ESP.
Okay, I'm hearing two
But
different
that's-
things.
Yeah, 5 is, oh no, that's 5C. You're on 5E, got it. I was confused.
Yeah, I was talking about 5E, proportionate share of district expenses.
Which is where equipment would also be. This is the same split for
Well,
equipment.
the emergency service building is, C is just for the building, E is for the overall expenses.
Equipment.
Which includes equipment, that's just what I wanted to confirm.
Yeah, real property. That's for real property.
Capital assets. And operating expenses.
So proportionate share, equalized value of the real property.
And at the last meeting, you weren't okay with this, or this is what you wanted to have it just be complete 50/50?
No, that's
Sorry.
the only note that I have. Is that we were considering it.
Emergency service building property repair fund.
No, we're on 5E as an elephant. So the way it's written now is it's split two equations in that as written here. 50% of the expenses allocated to each municipality based on the proportion of equalized valuation. And then the remaining 50 was based on calls, which we didn't like. So then we wanted to revert back to, there was a conversation around 50/50 based on equalized value. And now we're talking about just 50/50 even.
How would 50/50 based on equalized value work? We're not 50/50, we're not,
Would be based on
It's
equalized
based on
value.
equalized value.
yeah,
And I'm sorry, I just want to be super crystal clear in the language because the lawyers will come back and ask us, what did you really mean, guys?
Yeah, because my question was, did you really want to count calls?
It was an idea that.
Because you guys did, and it almost came down to 2 for us that one year, 2 for you. I mean, it was pretty much 50/50.
It was a, when I talked to the lawyers, it was a compromise, right? So that, because when it's based on equalized value, it's not an.
we're always going to be paying a lot more.
So the ownership of the assets is the
Is,
proportionate interest in the assets equal to their proportionate shares of expenses calculated in the same manner.
it's all back
So
to.
it's not 50/50.
So if we did it based completely on equalized value, that would be how we split up costs, but that would also be how we split up the assets, is what this is suggesting, yes?
And that's what it's currently now, short of the village or the town-owned pieces of equipment.
Again, this is all barring town board and village board. I just remember at the last meeting, this was the big, out of all the conversation, this is where we spent the most time. So I just wanted to be crystal clear on this.
You guys have, excluding the discussion on the new tender, just forgetting about that for now. Are you guys still okay with equalized value in the purchase of, say, an engine going forward, as opposed to doing that whole call thing and for a part of the purchase price and
So Rick was the one that came up with this idea. And the whole idea was, because if we just do equalized value, we'll pay a larger portion of the overall bill, right? The idea was to.
You haven't always paid more.
Absolutely fair. But as the village has grown, we've started to pay a bigger and bigger portion, and we're continuing to grow even larger, right? So the idea was, okay, take the bill, split it down in the middle. One half, we do it the way we used to do it, the new half's based on calls. The idea was that would be, it was a compromise. Personally, I'd like to see how the math shakes out, to be honest with you.
what?
Rick, how the math works out. If you took a year, took 2020, how different is the bill? Is it any different? If it's not different.
But you can go back, I think the best bet would be to go back 5 years then.
Exactly, that's what I was, yeah. So go back, see, does it make any material difference? It was just an idea that.
Yeah, I thought either you guys or the chief had numbers for us that we looked at one of our meetings, that it,
Yeah.
in reality, it was pretty close, you know, and I mean, handful either way, you know, some years it was our advantage, some years it was your advantage.
Some years it's the town that has more, and some years it's the village that has more. It just depends on.
But there wasn't an overwhelming majority at any of them.
Either way.
Sure, like the one entity had 20% more calls or something, usually within 10 total calls. So, I mean, talking a couple percentage points maybe.
So I guess, you know, the way I would personally look at it, as far as usage goes for the time being is that, yeah, we're getting equal use out of the vehicle. Agreed? So applying that thought process to this formula as far as, you know, the compromises, he put it, let's just, in my opinion, let's just get rid of that and just figure out, are we gonna do 50-50? Are we gonna do equalized value? And, or something else?
I got the call number if you'd like them.
I don't think we.
Yeah, I mean, it was a point of conversation, right? I mean, one could argue that it unnecessarily complicates the equation.
Agreed.
So are we just leaving it at equalized then? Or what?
I guess tell me the difference between equalized value versus just 50-50. I guess what does that do to the?
What's your equalized value versus ours? I mean, what is it, EMS wise? What was, I'm just trying to think, because I knew those numbers.
Sure.
I don't know, wasn't it like?
I think my 50-50 was only referring to the Emergency Service Building Property Repair Fund.
Correct.
That's why you split 50-50. Everything else was equalized value.
And I got in my notes on 1B, the remaining 50% of the expenses of the district shall be allocated to each municipality. I had the village reported 95 versus 74 in the township. So, you know, that's basically the difference, you know.
So we can have the village attorney then,
So what did we agree on? Did we agree on something? I feel like we didn't. I'm
on the
sorry.
equalized value.
Is
Okay,
that what we want to do?
I don't know.
Well, that's what they have been saying, because you don't want to do the calls at all. 'cause
No,
that
I
complicates the
would- I
process,
would-
so that
I
we
would
just said
rather-
equalized
Okay.
value.
Yeah, okay. I thought I heard you throw out 50-50, Mr. Andrews.
That's what I heard. was
So
50-50.
that's what I
Sorry.
thought. I thought you said 50-50 or equalized value was.
That was, to me,
consideration.
those seem like the only two options we would be
Right.
faced with, correct?
That-
If we take
But they are
the amount
different
of calls.
They are different options. So let's take the calls off the table. I think we all agree,
Right.
unnecessarily complicated, right? So now the question on the table is, do we want to do it based on equalized value or do we want to do it 50-50?
Equalized value. The way it has been.
Would you be willing to have the number of voting members be based on equalized value?
No, it's 6 and 6. Or
6 and
3 and
6?
3, rather.
But you see, the hard part for us, the argument is we bear most of the cost, but still only have half the vote. So
But why, just because you spend more, doesn't mean you have more say.
I'm just
No, no, I'm
saying,
just
Matt, this is where we kind of get into the challenges of coming up with these types of agreements when they're based on the equalized value, because there's the sentiment that then the village is paying, which is true for the,
But
Majority.
theoretically, with the more population that you have, you potentially and reasonably so, especially when the difference gets larger, that you will be using the equipment more.
yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't
No, no,
do
no.
by equalized value.
No, but I'm just saying is, and I guess I'm having difficulty, you know, because the village pays more, that means we get more of a say. And that sentiment from all three of your predecessors, I don't know the three of you well enough yet to know what your personal, you know, ideas are and stuff like that. But your predecessors saying, we pay more, we get all the say. Well, no, you just happen to have more people than we do and more potential to use whatever it is, you know, that yes, you know, you will pay more. And like Chris said, and although it's ancient history now, there was a time when the village was this little tiny dot and the town was still, it's 4,000 people. And, you know, the town did everything. And we're not asking for paybacks or anything else like that at this point in time. All we're doing is saying that we didn't complain. We didn't say that we wanted more say. all of the committees, even way back when, were equal town, equal village. You know, I mean, so anyway, I'll let it go there because I don't, you know, but
Yeah, so maybe, so this is more like a Senate model where each municipality gets an equal number, right? Versus the House of Representatives model, which is one that I was trying to envision. It's,
And this is
In
in
my-
California.
and
Exactly.
this is,
so the 2 senators from California versus the 2 senators from Delaware, right? I mean, that's pretty much.
that's kind of my, that's my analogy for it. So,
I guess the questions that we get, right, just understand where we're coming from, right, is like, you know, Sarah, Melissa, David, you know, you go to the Joint Fire Committee and, you know, we pay a bigger set, you know, portion of the bill, but yet it's equal votes, right? And so we're just looking for how am I supposed to explain this, right? So one person in particular was like, look, we go out to dinner, you and I, Steve, we go out to dinner and the bill comes. How do we pay the bill? Do we split it based on what we both paid? Do we split it 50-50 or do we split it based on how much money we make, right? I make 100 grand a year, you make 50 grand a year, therefore I should pay, you know, a larger proportion because I make more money, right? So that's, you know, when that person kind of brought that to me, it kind of opened, I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that, right? So that's really the question here. How do we want to pay the bill?
But it's not actually money, you know, per se. The reason why you have more money is because you have more people.
Mhm.
It's not like, I mean, it's not just like we're equal population, but somehow you guys could make your own money or whatever and have more to spend. But what I'm saying is, so, you know, the bigger you are, you know, I guess, you know, the more you pay, you know, and that's just, I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. I mean, even if you look at the associations that your village belongs to, those dues to those organizations are based upon population. So, you know, the village of Cottage Grove isn't, you know, like the village of Oregon, you know, I mean, or there's a big disparity in village size.
Sure.
You know, you're gonna pay more, they're gonna pay less. And so it's right or wrong, you know, you know, that's all I'm saying.
and I don't think we are arguing that we should not pay more. Totally agree.
No, I just,
We
yeah,
should.
it's just trying to make those who don't look at it that way
Yeah.
come to an understanding, I guess.
And I think ultimately this is gonna have to go back to both boards, and so
Absolutely.
really, no
I
matter
just,
what.
I want to,
we-
when we leave today, I want to like, whatever decision we come up with, I want to be able to argue the same point that you argued, right? Because we're all going to, you know, theoretically agree on how we want to do the funding. So that when we get questions from our board, how can I explain it as well as you can? Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I know, I'm glad I'm not in your position. You know, I just, I really, you know, I kind of met a, for once, I don't know what else, how to actually say anything else.
I agree with
I
that.
kind of just, I've tried to lay it out as best I can. And in a nice sort of way, I hope you all taken it, you know, as a positive, you know, comments and stuff. I certainly don't want to hammer on you guys by any stretch. So
It just,
I guess
We're
I'm
trying to
surprised
understand.
that people actually have that attitude, given the way that
The historical reference.
well, even the way government works. I mean, from the standpoint to those who have pay more than those who don't have. So I guess so.
And
Anyway.
that's, again, that's not even the argument. The argument is just the question of would we have this equal representation voting wise as our budget? That was my question, not if we should pay more, because we totally should. We have more people, more property,
more calls.
I mean, that totally 100%. Just could we come to an agreement that then if the assets are going to be split up that same way, our expenses are split up that same way, would not representation on the fire commission or committee be split up that way?
Then it would basically.
Senate says no.
Yeah,
That's no?
Senate says no.
but that's the whole argument
Senate,
that you're
Senate.
arguing.
Oh, right, I know, that's which
That's
model,
just-
Which
you know,
model,
then
right.
we're the Senate, explain it that way.
Well, but they would say, well, why can't we become the House of Representatives?
Well, but you
It's
can't,
going
you
backwards.
can't.
Well, I don't know if I would say it's going backwards, but.
There are some committees, joint fire committees, that are set up in that model where based on, I guess, equalized value has more voting. They're comprised of the House of Representatives rather than the Senate, so.
Like, can
Again,
you give us, can you,
Because I would feel that if that was the case,
yeah,
why are we even here?
uh-huh,
You know, I might as well be the village, you know, and I'm
Uh-huh.
a little excited about that thought process because of the fact that there would be, unless we get somebody on your side to capitulate, we would never be able to get something that the village, or excuse me, the town truly wanted. If we were facing, we'd always have to get somebody from your side to vote with us as opposed to,
that's the case today.
Yes.
what do you mean?
You have to
Something
get one of
passed,
us to
We
agree
have
with
to
you.
have 4-2.
Correct. We wouldn't
So-
even have to have the Senate. We, like I said, we would be.
No. Yeah.
Correct.
Your strategy would be the same. You got to convince.
We would have to
one
actually,
village
if there was
person.
4 against 3 or 5 against 3 to make it still an even number yet, we would have to find 2 to, you know, bring us to 5 and, you know, it's.
Well, if it was
Look at EMS.
five people, then it'd only be
What
3
about
to
it?
be.
I know that's how
The
it's
2
done.
smallest ones can force you into it.
Mm-hmm.
But because
But
you
all
have,
3 of us are needed to make it successful.
And I don't look at it as our side versus your side either. I look
But
at it
these
as a
are all-
joint,
But
like
these are,
we all want
If
what's
it's
best.
joint, then we're equal and we should all have the
and
same
these
number.
are all part of that whole, this is why we live in Cottage Grove. We like that. You know, we like the mix of the country and the city. We appreciate that.
So just to David's point, if you were to have to, in 2 sentences, help formulate the rationale for keeping with the Senate model, if you will, and not moving towards a more representative model, what, can you give us some of those thoughts so that we might be able to represent, for lack of a better word?
Because we're representing a service that we all need. It's a benefit to the community to have a good fire department. It's like it is for EMS and police, everything else.
I get that, okay.
And so being equal ensures that we both go after having a good department that's able to serve
All of
both
the
communities and Pleasant Springs.
Rock and a hard place. Because having made that argument before, there are voters who, and constituents and people who live in the village that, like, well, David, you pay more, you pay the bill with more of my money, and yet I only get 50% of the say.
no, you don't.
You
Oh,
get
50% of the say? Yes. And if the shoe was on the other foot, you know, let's say you guys were in our shoes.
Sure.
Mhm,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, I get it.
Look when we bought the ladder truck. Township didn't need a ladder truck. We still don't need one. But
Just
we paid for it.
I fully agree. Just understand, I'm just trying to look for context and
And I
see
think,
both sides of the conversation.
Because the community needed to have a ladder.
and I think if you can offer examples in the past, you know, where there's been just immense cooperation. I'm not saying that there isn't now. I think we get along pretty well. Kind of like brothers and sisters. We have a little spat every now and again. Well, you know what I mean. But what I'm saying is, you know, we've helped the village has helped us, you know, in the past. And if you can lay out, you know, these instances as to where,
That's fair.
you know, it's done that. And plus the fact, we haven't asked for anything, you know? All we're doing is,
Making sure the department moves forward.
yeah. I couldn't afford to equip a fire department myself no more than you guys could.
Agreed.
And, you know, I'd rather see the 6 of us walk down the street together than 4 and 3, you know, either way. Kind of. And we've never, in the past, even with your predecessors, we've had some pretty intense discussions, for lack of a better word, in the past on different things that have happened. But in the long run, you know, I mean, you would not believe the discussions when that fire station was being designed and built and everything. Oh, it was horrible at times.
Yeah, it was bad.
We all sat down and just, we got along and we have what we have there. And
You
so,
didn't think of it as the town and village, you dealt with it as
A
community
community.
needs a fire station.
I can respect that. So I guess we'll do 50%.
Put in whatever you want.
Yeah,
We'll always
so-
make a change.
No, I think that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I will have Rick, our village attorney, revise the agreement based on our previous 3 conversations with the equalized value in here. And then should it come back to the commission again to review or,
I think so.
I think
yeah.
for-
one more time.
okay. And then,
Just need to have a clean copy.
yeah,
So
that's
we
fair.
can look at and,
You don't remember
So-
from 6 months ago?
no, really? Why do you think I'm going back to my list?
I didn't bring mine, so.
You don't have your old list?
I have it at home. The problem with being in person versus at home, I'm used to being at home now, so.
Section 6A,
Yes.
how do you understand that section?
So you go back to 5E,
yeah, so it's
which is
based
the
on the
equalized
equalized value.
value. So.
Do you understand it different?
What's it covering?
So the emergency
This is
service, so B talks about the buildings owned by the town. I need to, because what happened, the way he laid it out is A says ownership of assets is based on equalized value, what we just agreed to. Then B, C, and D talk about
Building,
other specifics,
Yeah.
specifically the building, the sale of assets, and then the title of vehicles.
right. So under A, assets are the vehicles, correct?
Oh, so, okay, I see where the question's coming. So honestly,
So-
A should probably be D and everything else should move up. And then there should be a note that says, in my non-legal opinion here, because I'm not a lawyer, but it's like, should clearly outline in A, what do we, like, is it everything but B, C, and D? Is it?
So you want a definition of assets,
Yeah.
basically.
So is it turnout gear, desks, chairs, beds? I mean, is it anything and everything? Is it
Everything but the building.
everything but the building and the vehicles?
I think the intent of the
My-
vehicles was in there.
Yeah, no,
What's your
the
understanding?
the
My
vehicle,
understanding A is the vehicles.
see the title.
And so
of
that's saying that those tankers on replacement
insurance purposes.
are going to be jointly owned.
Yep, which is why I wanted to wait for this to be finalized before we bought more, so we all had the same understanding.
Right, but we have time to get this ironed out.
Yep, thanks to your motion.
And if you can just refresh my memory on the, in the original one that the attorney sent auditing, that was his doing and not you, the villages, and we took that out, right?
Yes. Although
expense.
that, so you're on
Which page?
5F, or is there another spot for it?
An annual audit?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Well, in his original one, the audit of the district shall be formed in conjunction with the village's annual audit. The cost of performing the audit related to the district shall be a district expense. And I thought we had done away with that completely.
What number are you on? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only audit language I see is letter F under 5, which doesn't have any of that language. It just says an audit shall be performed annually.
5C.
But
Would you like there to be more language?
no,
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand who put that in originally.
Oh, yeah, that's legal stuff. But,
Because should I be asking for that expense for that audit to be paid to the town, seeing as how we're doing the audit?
right. I kind of remember that discussion, and I remember in my notes that I had it that there was concern about that item. But again, I don't know where exactly.
Okay.
Is the audit done separate from the town, or is it all one
No,
audit?
It's all in one.
So they don't split out how much it costs them to include fire
No.
in there?
But if I was going to have to bill you for that, I would.
But we've never had.
Fire.
Never have.
I think that's why he took all that language out. So now it just says it should be
This
performed
hasn't been
annually.
changed from our previous
Okay.
discussion.
I was looking at the one.
I know, I don't know where
Okay.
he's talking.
Got it.
I've only seen that one as
Let's
well.
get a fresh copy and then we can.
Yeah, I think
Let's start from
that's-
square one with everything.
That sounds like the best bet.
And you want it just to say audit annually, not have all the other pieces. I want to just confirm what would be
I just
agreeable.
wanted to understand that that came from the lawyer, not from you.
Oh,
No,
yeah, no.
nothing.
I didn't think we'd have
not
come up with that.
I'm not that smart.
Of everything, I would not be thinking about it. I can tell you that. So, okay, so we'll have a new draft then for our next meeting in September.
27th. And are we going to start at 6:30?
I don't know, is the chief present the budget at that time?
He's going to be ready by the 15th.
You're gonna have to whiz through your landfill committee is the problem.
Yeah. Should we make it 6:45 at least?
6:14.
The reason why is because of the fact it's budget time for landfill also.
Oh,
And Tina Seabold, the engineer from Strand, does her presentation, you know,
All the results from,
I think. So
This
that will
year.
take longer.
Yeah, rather than the 10 minutes.
Are you
around
sure
it.
you-
I thought you were hoping to push
I
it
think you
earlier.
Just to be
Why
on the
didn't
safe
you
side.
start landfill earlier?
We're still-
The issue with Tina is that she's trying to get her son, she lives up near Lodi, get her your son to football and then getting back down here again. Or sport, you know, he's playing football this year. So anyway, just for her to get home, get him, get to school, get back down here.
Yeah,
We get it.
So, but I could always ask though.
well, could there be a note or upon completion of landfill committee? Like just in case landfill gets,
and where do we want to meet?
1855. Around the bar.
you mean the fire station or?
Yeah, I'm wondering, do we want to meet at the fire station
Yeah.
with it being budget? If there's things that he wants to
Show us.
show us. The only problem is EMS will be there, so we would probably be upstairs or in the fishbowl.
They're there tonight, so they won't, oh yeah, we'll be there again. next time, too.
Yeah. We could either meet upstairs or in the fishbowl, I guess.
It's not winter yet, we can meet in the fishbowl.
Then, but we won't have the capacity to do Zoom then.
Correct.
Go to meeting.
Well, by then we might have the capacity to do it at Village Hall. We're
Yeah.
getting our new video equipment this month, I think.
It's already installed.
In August, it's.
And then we would have the video, audio visual if needed.
Then we could just do it here.
But if there's something at the station you wanted to see,
Oh, I see.
you wouldn't be able to.
I see.
Never wanted to.
I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
how
you
about-
should.
You'll send the budget out ahead of time and we can look at it. And if we want a private tour of whatever you're budgeting, we could call you. We needed an on-site visual.
That's because you need to have a personnel.
I know, I would not dare go in by myself.
That's right.
I don't know, it just,
Have you been there before?
yeah, I'm an EMS. You talking about EMS?
Yeah.
Filling, yeah,
Okay, all right. No, I just asking.
yeah, I
I just-
appreciate it.
No, I didn't know if the chief really needed, or one of the chiefs needed to really give you, an in-depth
Yes, I
tour
have
to
had-
show
I've had
all the
the
nooks and
tour.
crannies and stuff, so, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think just here would be fine then.
If we do 6:45 and put the 6:45 or after the, or immediately after the landfill committee meeting, that should cover us, wouldn't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so if
we
we
couldn't
run
start
long-
any.
I'm sure the
sooner than
landfill would always
6:45.
appreciate another 4 or 5.
So at the town hall or immediately after.
Yes. And I'll still plan on 6 o'clock, and if I can change it to a little earlier, I can let you, I got plenty of time to let you guys know.
Paul should be back.
6:45 or later. You
Okay.
can't start before 6:45. So there's people.
Oh, yeah, 6:45. That's what I meant to say.
Okay,
It's getting late.
let's do adjourn.
I move adjourn.
Second.
Non-debatable, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Oh, good. An update on the homestead.